This past week was a very fortuitous circumstance. I was planning to give a shiur on listening to music during Sefirah, just to be able to see what's out there, what material discusses, new technologies and so forth, and perhaps changing circumstances. And just then I got an email from Rabbi Tzvika Reisman in Los Angeles, who's a great Talmud Chacham and has written a set of Sfarim. He's continuing to write a set of Sfarim called Ratz Katzevi, where he goes through a number of halachic issues, and he sent me his latest piece on listening to music during Sefirah. So it was a great opportunity to have a Shulchan Aruch, to have a set table presented to me of many of the contemporary sources that I'd like to present to you, including the original sources of this whole idea of not listening to music during Sefirah. First thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of people get confused halachically about what is permitted and what's not permitted during Sefirat HaOmer, because we tend to confuse the 3 weeks with Sefirah, and the halachas are different. Most things that we associate with the 3 weeks are not prohibited during Sefirah. And as we'll see, that really the only two things that are itemized in Shulchan Aruch are getting haircuts and making weddings, right? The question then becomes so where did this? How then did this whole issue of listening to music? Where does that originate from? So make sure the camera's working. Okay. So where does that come from? So we're going to start with the Gemara in Gittin that tells us about an issue that has nothing to do with Sefirat HaOmer. The first question that we really have to ask ourselves is, what right do we have to listen to music anytime over the course of the year? Because, as we'll see, Chazal made a takana that once the temple was destroyed, we are supposed to be in a perpetual state of quasi-mourning to make a zecher l'churban, to remind ourselves on a daily basis that we have no temple. And this is from the Gemara. It's from the Gemara in Gittin that says, Sholchu leila Mar Ukva. A message was sent to Mar Ukva, Zimra minolan da asir. How do we know that Zemer, which is seemingly means music, how do we know that it is asur, that it is forbidden? Now this is forbidden, period, not during the 3 weeks, not during Sefirah. How do we know that music is asur? Now, I inserted here Rashi's definition of Zimra. How does Rashi define Zimra? Rashi says that Zimra is L'shorer b'veit hamishtaot, to sing in the public tavern. To sing in the public tavern. I mean, I don't know, maybe you do. I don't generally hang out at the local tavern, the local pub, the local bar. But this was something that was done by Jews, right? When you wanted to socialize, you went to the tavern, and you'd order your mug of mead or your glass of wine, and you would sit and socialize with friends. But there's the concern about singing in the tavern while you're drinking alcoholic beverages. And how do we know, says Rashi, that this is asur? So sirteit v'kosav lo. So he sent back a message, basically actually writing down a pasuk, which was uncharacteristic, but he sent back a pasuk on a piece of parchment and wrote a pasuk, Al tismach Yisrael al gil ba'amim. Do not rejoice, Israel, do not be mirthful among the nations. Basically saying that when you're in Golus, this is not a time to be happy. Okay? And so the Gemara then just asks the question, V'lishlach luhu mehacha. Why didn't he send a different pasuk? He could have given them this pasuk of Bishir lo yishtu yayin, Umar shechar lishosav, or Yamer shechar lishosav, that with song they shall not drink wine, that the beer should be bitter for those who drink it. Meaning that you're not supposed to have such a good time when you're drinking. So hava mina hanimili zimra demana. Aval depuma shari kamash malan. Because if I only had that pasuk, I might have thought that only musical instruments that accompany singing is asur. But perhaps vocal singing is perfectly okay. So that's why he quoted for them the pasuk that he quoted to them, which implies that not only is playing music asur, but even singing in the tavern, with your buddies. What's a famous tavern song? 99 bottles of beer on the wall. I don't know.
It's beyond my pay.
Yeah. All right. I guess
the reason why Jews didn't invent karaoke.
that's right. I guess if we had a guy that grew up in England, maybe he'd be able to tell us. Anyway, so the Rambam tells us in codifying this law in Ilchos Ta'anios, the Rambam goes through in Perek Hey all of the things that our sages were gozer to remind ourselves that we are in Golus. And he writes over here, V'chein gazru shelo lenagen bichlei shir v'chol minei zemer. Our sages decreed that we should not make music with musical instruments. V'chol mashmiei kol shel shir asur lismoach bahen. And all different kinds of noisemakers, we're not supposed to rejoice with them. V'asur l'shaman mipnei hachurban, nor are we allowed to listen to this because of the temple's destruction. V'afilu shira b'peh al hayayin asura. And the Rambam goes even further, and he says that even singing while you're drinking wine is asur. So notice what the Rambam did. He just told us, music with musical instruments is asur all the time. That's part of the takan. Every single day of the year, musical instruments are out. Singing with your mouth is okay unless you're drinking. When you're drinking, socially drinking, then even singing with your mouth without musical instruments is asur. Shenamar b'shir lo yishtu yayin, as it says, with song they shall not drink wine, which was the second pasuk Gemara brought. So actually, Cyril, that's a source for how we know that Kiddush clubs are asur, because when you come back into shul and they're singing, so that's a problem. It's drinking and singing. So anyway, so uchvar nohagu.
There's never any singing in Kiddush.
No, I'm saying, but like if you had a drink and then you come back, it's like I don't know. Uchvar nohagu kol Yisrael lomar divrei tushbacho so shir shel hoda lokel b'chayotze ban alayayin. But says the Rambam, saving grace for Cyril's choir, is that the minhag is to say divrei shiros v'tishbachos with wine. So if you're in the tavern with your b'nei Torah, with your chaverim from the yeshiva, and you're clinking your mugs, and you're saying ho 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 ho, yishtabach shimcha lo ad malkeinu, and hoydu l'Hashem kitov ki le'olam chazdo. So that's okay. As long as so that's okay. Even if you're holding alcoholic beverages and you're singing, that's okay because you're saying praises to the Lord.
But is this still in the tavern, or is this anywhere?
That's what I'm telling you. So the Rambam says that with musical instruments, it's asur everywhere. Singing, that's with musical instruments. Singing without musical accompaniment is asur only in the taverns when you're drinking. Okay? But that too can be mitigated if you're singing songs of praise to the Lord. Okay? Now, let's take a look at the Tur. The Tur in Siman Taf Kuf Samech. Do you want a sheet? He says, Umilashon harambam zal mashma. So the Tur first tells us what the Rambam says. He says, it seems from the Rambam, de bichli asur lishmo b'chol inyan, that with musical instruments it's always asur. Uvepeh davka al hayayim. And vocal music, right, just a cappella without music, is asur only when you're drinking. Avalhu bi'er b'tshuva she'ela dafilu bepeh asur af below mishteh. But then the Tur brings a tshuva from the Rambam. I don't have the original tshuva. I didn't take the time to look for it, but I'm sure it's there somewhere. The Rambam writes in a tshuva that even a cappella without any wine is also asur. Ve'ein chiluk bein lashon ivri ve'lashon aravi. And he also writes that there's no distinction whether you're singing in Hebrew or you're singing in Arabic or whatever language you're singing in. It's always asur. Kol shekenim hem divrei nivul sha'asur l'shomo af below melitza v'nigun. And besides the fact that a lot of times these tavern songs contain profanity or inappropriate lyrics, and that's going to be asur even without singing, right? Okay? V'hani mili shiras ahevim kagon l'shabeach yafeh b'yofyo v'chayotze bo. But that, he says, is only going to be a problem to sing when you're singing love songs or just companion songs, a pirate's life for me, and there's a shiver me timbers and all, right? I don't know, I'm just making it up, all right? I don't know any of these songs. Aval mutter lo mar shiros b'tishpachos al hayayin b'veis hamishta. But it is permitted to say praises to the Lord even if you're singing in the tavern. So when you're not singing songs of praise to the Lord, so then it's always asur, whether you're in the tavern or not. Even if there's no singing, if the lyrics are problematic, then even just saying the lyrics is asur. However, va'asur, and then finally he says, va'asur la'adam sheyamale schok piv bisman hazeh shenemar oz yimale schok pinu. And a person should not fill his mouth with laughter in this world. In other words, always have some level of reservation in your mirth, because only after the redemption will our mouths be filled with laughter. And that's the end of the tour. And now let's see how it's codified in Shulchan Aruch and Siman Tav Kuf Samach. Now remember, up until this point, we have not yet even touched upon Sefirat HaOmer and the 3 weeks. This is on a daily basis. Am I getting you scared? Are you regretting that you came to the shiur tonight? Let's just
on a regular basis.
On a regular basis. No, Zecher L'Churban. There's a separate siman in Shulchan Aruch that says that on a daily basis you have to make a Zecher L'Churban. Did you ever hear of making a space on your wall in your house that's 1 amma by 1 amma, just of blank, unfinished space? That's the same siman in Shulchan Aruch. A lot of people don't do it today. Okay? There is a requirement on a daily basis to make a Zecher L'Churban. Okay, Shulchan Aruch, siman Tav Kuf Samech. V'chein Gazru. Our sages also decreed, as far as making a regular Zecher L'Churban, a constant Zecher L'Churban, shelo l'nagein b'chlei shir v'chol minei zemer v'chol mashmi'ei kol shel shir l'sameach bahem. That a person should not make music with any kind of musical instrument or noisemaker in order to arouse joy. And the Ramah says, V'yesh omrim davka misha ragil bahem kegon hamelachim she'omdim v'shochvim b'chlei shir o b'veis hamishta. But the Ramah is more lenient. In other words, the Mechaber is going like the Rambam, the Torah bringing of the tshuva of the Rambam, and the normative understanding that musical instruments are always asur, but says the Ramah in the name of the Torah, some hold that this is only prohibited if it's a habitual thing. In other words, a constant thing, like you wake up every morning with music, and you go to bed every night with music, or you go to the tavern and you really, you spend a lot of time in an environment where there's plentiful music. One could say, if you have an alarm clock that plays music, so that's arising with music and going to bed with music. But the way that kings used to wake up is they would have a minstrel that would play for them, help wake them up in the morning, and the king would go to bed with beautiful music to go to bed at night. He says that's what's asur. But to have incidental music, not in the tavern, and not on a constant basis like kings, is okay. But please hold your questions, because I guarantee you, we're going to clarify everything and refine it. Okay. Now, va'asur l'shoma mipnei hachurban, and you're not allowed. Not only are you not allowed to make this music, but you're not allowed to listen to this music because of the churban. Va'afilu shir b'peh al hayayin asura, and even vocalized a cappella music is asur when you're drinking. Shene'amar b'shir lo yishtu yain, as it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya. L'chvar nagu kol Yisrael omar divrei tishbachos or shir shel hodos v'zichron chasdei HaKadosh Baruch Hu al hayayin. But, as we saw from the tour as well, that it's okay if you're going to sing, even with wine, if you're going to sing songs of praise to Hashem, that is okay. The chen l'tzarech mitzvah, and the Ramah just adds, and similarly, if it's to perform a mitzvah, you're allowed to make music. Kagon v'beis chasen v'kala hakol shari. In the house of a chassan and kala, there you can make music without any reservation because you're doing it for a mitzvah. Let's just run really quickly through the Mishnah Berurah. Shalolin again bichlei shir hainu de bichli aser afilu shalol alayin l'deyazu. So the Mishnah Berurah says, according to the Mechaber, then making musical music, in other words, with instruments, is aser even without wine. O beveis hamishta, and then the Ramah says it's only aser in the tavern. Rotzalomar lefi shehu al hayayin asru bazeh vafilu lemi she'eno ragil bazeh. And the Mishnah Berurah says, look, either if it's habitual music or it's music with wine, both of them are aser. V'dad afilu bepeh aser al hayayin l'kulei alma. And you should know that even just vocal a cappella music is aser when you're drinking wine. And therefore, ve'alkein yesh limchos ba'osin sheyoshvin lechol sudasin uvechutz omdim u'menagnim. He says, and therefore we should protest about those who go to a restaurant and sit down for a nice dinner, and there are people outside who are playing music or it's just singing. You know, you go to a nice Italian restaurant. This is the night, the beautiful... Or, big pizza pie, that's amore. And there's you have the guys singing
Dean Martin.
Dean Martin, right? Okay. Uvechol yom osin kain, and these people do this on a regular basis. Why? Dezeu vaday iser gomer. So the Pri Megadim says that's for sure going to be aser, right? Okay. Now, and they do this, by the way. It's not just an Italian. You know, many cultures have music accompanying when you go to the restaurant. Vafilu shir bepeh al hayayin aser, and even just vocal music with wine is aser. Ubach pasak, and the Bach paskins like the tour bringing of the Tshuvas Rambam. Dafilu below yayin gamkein aser de'amrinam begemara dafka zimmer shel moshchei asfinos moshchei habakarim. He says, and how do we know that the Rambam is correct, that even vocal music without wine is aser? Because the Gemara allows for singing of those who are driving a ship. You know, heave ho, or the people who are moshchei bakarim, the cattle drivers. You know, rawhide, you know, okay, doing a musical variety show tonight. Round them up, rawhide, you know. So in other words, there's got to be a whole, you know, there's got to be a reason why you're singing, because it's part of your work, you know. She'enu ela lizarzam b'malachta, because it's to get them more into their work. Avol degardoy asur shulas lagbama. But weavers, a person who's in the weaving business, who likes to sing while he's weaving, that doesn't help you get more into the work, apparently. I don't know why, but the Gemara says it doesn't, because I guess you're not as involved in the manual aspect of the labor. It doesn't require the same kind of rhythm, and therefore that is usher, says the Gemara. V'alkein noshim hamizamros bepeh be'is malachton yeshlimchos lahen. Therefore, women who sing while they're working, whistle while you work, right? We should protest that. V'im einan shomos mutav shiyu shogikin. But if they're not going to listen to our protest, then don't bother, because better that they should do it b'shogeg and not b'mezid. Achein b'veit charoshet ha'maisa sheyesham gam anoshim ve'ilu mizamros ve'ilu onin achrein hu keish ben oros u'mitzvah rab labadla. But in a situation where you're in a factory and there are men there and there are women there, and then they have all of these, you know, these elaborate choral staged, you know, things, you know, like in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, if you remember that scene in the factory where they're making the candy. And then you got this side of the factory singing and that side of the factory singing, right? So they used to actually do that. I guess maybe not as orchestrated, the factories weren't as clean, but they would have the men sing and then the women sing. He says, the Mishnah Berurah says that you for sure should be mevatel because that's eish ben aris. There's a lack of tznius there, and it's going to cause other sins that are going to come out as a result. Okay. All right. There's a lot more to see, so we have to move a little bit faster. He says, and listen, Sif Katan Tesvav, he says, V'zichron chasdei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sing all of the kind acts of Hashem. V'eza sudot, noagim l'shoyer kadosh tahenu yizgadel, v'zeu vadai chet gadol, v'loitiru el zichron chasdei Hashem. V'kol shekem b'mashalokan al asuda leitzan echad v'oses chok b'psukim o b'tevos kedoshos v'zeu avon pulili. He says, make sure that when you sing, you don't do something criminal by taking a holy prayer and turning it into a melody. Right? And this could be, it's difficult to know where to apply this, but certainly taking Kaddish and making it into a song is wrong. And to get a leitzan, to get a badchen, and to have him take psukim and make leitzanis out of it, that for sure is aser. It's a serious crime, says the Taz. What? Apparently, according to the Mishnah Berurah, apparently so, if he makes leitzanis with psukim. The Mishnah Berurah doesn't specifically address the issue of making leitzanis on the chassan and kala, but on psukim, he says is a problem. Now, of course, this is all problematic, because now the question is, so, all right, if you leave the shiur now, then not only is listening to music usher during Sefirah, it's usher every single day, music. So what is going on here? What is going on?
And a Jew can't be a musician.
And we have a problem for a Jew to be a musician also.
At this point, we haven't delineated between live music and like radio.
We have not made that delineation either. Okay.
Live music and what?
Radio music.
Live and recorded, right? All right, let's go to Hilchos Pesach, where we see the laws of Sefirah. Noagim shalolisa isha ben Pesach la'atzeres ad lag ba'omer mipnei sheba'oso zman mesu talmidei Rabbi Akiva. So the minhag is not to get married between Pesach and Shavuos until Lag BaOmer. That's when the students of Rabbi Akiva perished. We also know that's also the times of the Crusades in the Middle Ages. Avol la'aresu lakadei shapir dami. But to get engaged is perfectly fine. Unesuin nami mishakafats v'konas ein onshin also. And if a person goes ahead and does get married, we don't penalize him. And the Ramah says, miu mi lag ba'omer ve'elach hakol shori, but everything's permitted after Lag BaOmer. Now, that's just to get married. The Magen Avraham adds an additional aspect to this halacha, because we know that the only other thing that the Shulchan Aruch says explicitly about the Yemei Sefirah is haircuts. Comes along the Magen Avraham and says, you're allowed to get engaged, Shema Yekadmenu Acher, because we don't want another person to chaperein. If I don't get engaged to the girl, maybe someone else will, right? Which, of course, is a... How could another guy get engaged to her? He didn't have the shidduch resume. I had the shidduch resume. Okay, but I digress. Venerally, demuter lasos ba'oso pa'am sudas erison. It seems to me, however, says the Magen Avraham, that it is permitted to make a sudas erison. Avolasos rikudenu machoilos shel rishus nohagu le'esor. But to make dancing of rishus, rikudim and macholos are two different types of dance. It seems rikudim are spontaneous dance and mecholos are dancing in a circle. Those seem to be prohibited at the engagement party. Venerally sha'af mi sha'asa shiduchim asur lasos rikudim u'mecholos. And when you make a shidduch, you can't do any of that stuff. The Aruch HaShulchan says something that the other Achronim don't make note of. Mishnah Berurah doesn't say this. The Aruch HaShulchan writes on this, right, like we said before. You're allowed to make a party for the engagement, but not dancing. And if dancing is aser, then certainly making music with musical instruments is going to be aser. And this is the source for the minhag to not have music. Now, If you just had the Aruch HaShulchan, it would be music at an engagement party. But you could argue, if I can't make music b'makom mitzvah, then surely I should not make music in any other situation, right?
According to Magen Avraham, the dancing includes singing as well, or just dancing with something?
The Magen Avraham just says dancing. Now, presumably, when there's dancing, there's some kind of music, but it could be just everyone singing together. But he doesn't talk about musical instruments. The Aruch HaShulchan is the only one. The Aruch HaShulchan interprets it to mean that if dancing is aser, then certainly music with musical instruments is aser. He says, kal v'chomer, kol shekein, that's going to be aser. Okay, let's take a look at Reb Moshe. Reb Moshe says, Be'inyan Isser Zimra Bizman Hazeh. This is an old shuv. It's from the first volume of Igros Moshe. The prohibition of music today. He says, B'dvar Isser Shmias Kol Zemer Mishacharev Beis HaMikdash. Not talking about Sefirah at all in this shuv, at least not at the first part. He says, Hinei Begitten Daf Zayin Mashma Dein Chiluk Bein Zimra Demana LeZimra Depuma. Right? At first glance, there seems no difference when you look at the Gemara in Gittin between instrumental music and vocal music. Avol ha'isr pirush Rashi shu l'shor beveis hamishtos. But according to Rashi, it's only asr if you're in the tavern. The kain kasvu atoisvus taimam dechein mashma begemar shami dekamar belishlach leimar mehacha b'shir lo yishtu b'chein ulashon hamishna b'soita daf memches mishabot l'sanhedrin batal shir beveis hamishtos. And it seems like that's what the Mishnah in Sota itself says explicitly. It says when the Sanhedrin was nullified, singing in taverns became nullified. But it sounds like Rashi seems to be onto something from that Mishnah in Sota. But then we're skipping a few lines. He says, "V'nira pashat shelo pligi dechein mashma lashon hatosus deroi lahachmir b'chayotze kavanasam b'chahegavna." But he says it seems that there is no difference, that it's not specifically in the taverns. The lemisha ragel bekach shemisanik biyoser dami lebeis hamishtos lechol adam. He says, if your whole life is surrounded with music, he says that's also going to be aser. All right, and the Magen Avraham says the bebeis hamishta aser afilu lemishein ragil bohem v'lumishum detam echalem v'chazinu shemafar shelo pligi Rashi b'tosas. Basically, what he's saying is that according says Rav Moshe, that if music is your habitual thing that you listen to all day, that's also going to be usher on a daily basis. The only time that we can be lenient is if you listen to music once on an incidental basis outside of the tavern. Right? Avol shitas harambim miperakemi tanios halachi yadala shemachalek to b'klei shir aser b'chol makom afilu shelo beveis hamishtos. V'im kain hu gam l'chol adam afilu le'eno rogil u'v'shira b'peh aser rak al hayayin v'chein ever sham b'tur v'shem harambim b'chibura v'chein pasuk gam achaber b'shulchan aruch v'zet tamua minalu u'chilek ben klei shir l'zimra b'puma shelichara d'lo kemara d'git. Rav Moshe is surprised at this distinction that the Rambam draws between instrumental music and vocal music. Because the Gemara seems to make no distinction, but the Rambam is clearly more machmir than Rashi. Rashi seems to only be prohibiting it in taverns and when it's on a constant basis. But the Rambam seems to say that instrumental music is usher even on an incidental basis, and it's only vocal music that perhaps we can be lenient on an incidental basis. I don't know where he gets it from, and the Rav Moshe spends the bulk of this tshuva trying to explain the Rambam, which we're going to skip over now. But the Rav Moshe says hayotze mizeh, but in the conclusion and summation of what we want to try and explain is de bepuma ein lesser shelo beveis hamishta ulamisha ein rogel mishum tekimat kol harishonim matir. He says vocal music outside of the tavern, even though the Rambam in a tshuva was machmer and the Bach brings it down, we can definitely be lenient, right? Rak Rambam b'tshuvaso nagad atzmo b'hilchosav. V'lo kasha mizimra degardoish asur shiksha mizeh abach. Dehu mishum dekivin shelo olam mizarmen be'is malachtan lischoku kerogel bekach b'shah shchiva v'kima sha'aser. Why then are weavers not allowed to engage in regular song? He says, because since from the moment that they clock in the morning at 9 a.m. to the moment that they clock out at 5 p.m., they're constantly singing. He says, and that's the habitual nature of the weaver singing is what is problematic. Okay? Demaishna be'ezeh zman hu haragilas. Avol vaday meharoi lebal nefesh lahachmir karambam b'tshuvasu u'vabach posa kavase av shevayose inu klum mikol makom roi lahachmir. Zokt Rav Moshe, a person should be machmir and should not even sing when he doesn't have to outside of the tavern. Uvizimr demana asur b'chol makom shekein sover harambam v'amachaber, but to play musical instruments is going to be usher even outside of the tavern. That everyone seems to agree to. It's not just the chumrah. Ulamasha bi'arti efshir shegam Rashi v'toisvus lo pligi. L'chein afsharama be'adivrei chaim savi shepligi, or divrei chamudos, savi shepligi, u'matir shelo beveis hamishta ve'en arogel yishlachmir afshu hisur derabbanan. Rav Moshe says you should be machmir. Ve'imhu lidvar mitzvah mashma mitos l'sumei ramah shemuter afsheinu l'simchas chasan v'kala. If it's for a mitzvah, however, you want to play musical instruments, that seems to me that it's perfectly okay, even if it's not for a wedding. Dahanaktu kigon beveis chasan v'kala kol shari mashma de chasan v'kala shenaktu hu rak litziur v'hu adin l'chol dvar mitzvah. Right? So he says like a bar mitzvah too would be an example of where you could play music without any reservation. It's a dvar mitzvah, you're celebrating the boy or the girl coming of age. Aval habanquets, that's what he seems to be saying. Ha-banquets, sha'osin l'tzorach tzedakah, misufkanim hu bichlal heter devar mitzvah, me'achar sha'asuda b'hasimcha, eina mitzvah be'etzem, rak shehu lesef al yedei zeh, harbe anashim she'yisnadvu. He says, when you make a banquet for the shul, he says, it's not a dvar mitzvah. You're trying to get people to come and donate money and come to be part of the dinner. But that's not a direct dvar mitzvah. Right? So he says, I'm not sure whether that falls under the heter, so that whether you can hire a band to play at your shul dinner. But maybe on the other hand, you could argue that it's a mitzvah, because you're honoring those who fulfill the mitzvah of tzedakah. And therefore he says, and therefore it's preferred to be machmir, but not to protest those who choose to be mekel. And then finally, Rav Moshe says, "Vayidei haragio im nishma zimmer depuma mutter v'im bichli zemer aser." The radio, a cappella music is perfectly fine, whenever you like, but musical instrumentation is aser with anything with musical instruments. It's an amazing tshuva that that Rav Moshe writes. Uvimei Sefirah yesh lesor b'zimmer demana afla hamatirin. And during Sefirah, we should certainly be aser, even recorded music on the radio, even for those who are mekel during the rest of the year. So that's Rav Moshe. That's Rav Moshe. Okay, let's go on. Rav Ovadia Yosef. He gets a much longer tshuva, but we'll just see the synopsis by his son Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, who wrote the Yalkut Yosef, right? So like a kitzer of the Rav Ovadia's Piskei Halacha. He writes, source number 7, Gam hano hagim lahakel b'chol yemos hashana lishmoa shirei kodesh hamalavim b'chlei negina derech haradio v'hareshem kol. He says, even those who have a minhag to be lenient during the rest of the year, to listen to songs of holiness that accompany musical instruments. In other words, you listen to Shweki, if that's called Shirei Kodesh. I'm not picking on Shweki, I'm just saying, Shirei Kodesh usually means Jewish music, but again, there's a spectrum, hard to define. What is Shirei Kodesh, right? But if you listen to it using the radio and a tape recorder, he says there are many people who are mekel, and Rav Ovadia allows for that leniency during the rest of the year because it's not live music. But he says, Nachon sheyachmiru b'mei hasfira shelo lishma bahem shirim hamalavim im klei negina. But during Sefirah you should be machmir. In other words, the attitude from both Rav Moshe and Rav Ovadia that we're getting at this point is, listen, Chevra, Chazal made a takana, no music with musical instruments during the entire year. Do you have a basis to be mekel? Yeah, okay, it's tzorach mitzvah, or it's not live music, it's recorded music on the radio or on the hi-fi. But fine, so you found a kula, so you can be makel during the rest of the year. But at least during Sefirah, which is a time of sadness, you should revert back to the being machmir during that period of time. So, Oshmias klishir mitepa. So you shouldn't listen to anything on a recorded basis. Umikol makom shira bepeh kishiderach hodal Hashem Yisborach belikle negina muteres af b'yomim eila. But a cappella music, that is words of praise to Hashem, even without when it's without musical accompaniment, is permitted during these days. This is the source for listening to a cappella music during Sefirat HaOmer, which a lot of people are makel on. And you're certainly allowed to sing while you're davening, going back to our choir. Or when you're learning, you're allowed to make music, to aid, 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 aid. The chol shekain b'shabbos shebesoch yimei hasvira shebesoch yimei bein hamitzarim ve'ein lahachmir bazeh klal. And certainly on Shabbos, during Sefirah and Shabbos during the 3 weeks, no reason to be machmir, certainly on Shabbos. Uvesimchas. He doesn't make a distinction, it doesn't seem that way, between live a cappella and recorded a cappella. He doesn't seem to make that distinction. Uvesimchas mitzvah kegon mila afilu shelo bizmana o pidyon haben afilu shelo bizmana o siyum masechta o bar mitzvah sheyishlamu lo yud gimel shana biyom zeh mutar lishmor shirei kodesh hamilavim b'chlei negina. He says, but if there's a sudas mitzvah like a bris or a pidyon haben or a siyum, or the day that the boy actually becomes a bar mitzvah, not a bar mitzvah party, but the day he becomes bar mitzvah, you can have even songs that are accompanied by an orchestra. Shekol shehi simchas mitzvah yesh lahakel b'davar. Right? V'lachein mutar liishtatef b'tahalucha l'lavot achnasat sefer Torah b'mei Sefirah im klei zemer. And therefore, Rabbi Vadya paskins that you can have achnasa sefer Torah with musical instruments during Sefirat HaOmer. Ashkenazim are more machmir on this, but at least you see there's basis to be makel, certainly for Sephardim. Let's see Rav Mordechai Breish, who lives in the 20th century, is a survivor. And in the Chelkas Yaakov, he writes in source number 8, Mi yitain v'haya asher yitkasher dora lihizaher mibilti shmoa zimrat haradio. He says, if only we could get people to stop listening to that crazy stuff on the radio. Right? If only we could. But the Olam is not careful about this, and only very, very pious people. And I've only seen very small percentage of people who are careful about this. By the way, he's not just talking about rock and roll. He could be talking about jazz, he could be talking about classical music. He's just saying, don't listen to the radio. It's goyish stuff. But listen, we have an obligation as communal leaders, as rabbinic leaders, to be malabit zchus on why people find it so okay to listen to the radio and listen to music all the time. Because listen, this is not the only thing that people take liberties with that is found in Siman Tav Kuf Samach, where it says to make a zecher l'churban. There are a lot of things that we take liberties with, and that's Siman in Shulchan Aruch. He says, Livnot binyanim mehudarim mibeli l'shayer ama al ama. He says, we build beautiful homes, and we don't leave that one by one ama in our house that is unfinished to remember the churban. And similarly with Arichas HaShulchan v'tachshit, the Shulchan Aruch says, don't make a fully laden table. You should don't adorn, women should not adorn themselves with all of their jewelry. And yet today, people are not makpid on this. Okay? V'ayin b'chachmas adam v'zel l'shana. So the chachmas adam actually undertakes this shaila. He says, v'tzarach iyun, shekol zeh eino agin klal. He says, why aren't people makpid on this, about making a zecher l'churban? V'zimrat haradio al kol panim yesh lismach al shitas Rashi, v'toisvus begitten derak beveis hamishta al yayin o shirogel bekach keloshan harama kegon hamelachim sha'omdim v'shochvim b'chlei shir. He says, as far as listening to the radio, Rav Breish says you can be somech on the Ramah, who says that it's only when it's on a constant basis or in the taverns that music is usher. Uchaloshan atoisus gittin that shemitanik bioter, that you're actually having too much fun on a constant basis. Uvagos Mordechai Reish gittin the dafka b'mishteh below achila hu da'asr shekain derech akum avol b'mishteh shal achila mutter. Now he brings from the Hagos Mordechai, who says only when you're in the tavern without eating. But if you're in the tavern, which is a restaurant also, then music is okay. Umuva gam b'mishnah berurah lahalacha. Uma shehevi mishulchan aruch nun gimel mishirei nachrim da'aser eno inin lakanta mavur sham b'magin aram sefkan lamanaz zadavka b'nigun shevenagim kein lavod zara. He says you want to bring another halacha that you're not allowed to listen to Gentile songs. He says that's when they're talking about avodah zara. You know, uva ver heitev sham b'shem bachad b'tshuva nigun shem yuchad b'veis avodah zara. B'zen ogea le'avak v'abizraya d'avodah zara. Val b'radyo yodua she'eno zimras avodah zara rak zemer stam. He says, but that doesn't present a problem listening to Goyish music on the radio. They're not playing avodah zara music, unless maybe you listen to Handel's Messiah. They had the question there. Maybe that's a problem, or John Harrison, My Sweet Lord, right? In other words, George Harrison was My Sweet Lord a problem because he's making a song about Hare Krishna. Okay, maybe you could argue that that's an avodah zara problem. V'yesh rak chash avelus da'achar achurban v'al zeh anu somchen al shitos hanal lahatir. He says there's only a chash of avelus after the churban, and therefore we're somech on the Ramah to be matir. V'im lefamim nishma kol isha o shirei cheshek va'agavot v'adai hi da'asr tzrichen liyizaher. But I'm not giving you a heter to listen to women singing on the radio. I'm not giving you a heter to listen to love songs on the radio. That I'm not giving you a heter for. V'yesh ot svar gedola lahatir kevin debishas hagzera lesar hazimra mitam avelos lo hayadayin haradyo lochal hagzera al haradyo. Listen to this heter, which some other poskim are not so crazy about. But Rav Breish says, he says, you know why we can be matir the radio bizman hazeh? Because at the time when they made their gezerah to make a zeichel l'churban, there was no such thing as radio music. There was no recording, there was no radio transmission, so it was never included in the original gezerah. Interesting. Okay, and like the Beis Yosef says in other cases, "Kevin de biyameim de lo haya genaylo asru chachamim afal pi shebiyameinu ika genay mikol makom lo nigzur nechadish gezerah chadasha v'nishaer be'eitaro." Okay. He says, but you can't extend that and say that if they didn't have guitars in the time when they made the gezerah, you can listen to guitar music. He says that's not okay, because when Chazal asered music, they asered all musical instruments. They didn't say only musical instruments that we have in our time. So Rav Breish says don't extend what I'm telling you too far. But the radio, he says that they didn't have it all. There was not even a concept of a radio. That music should travel across the airwaves. He says that's for sure not a problem, or with recorded music. And he says, finally, he says in the end of his tshuva, he says, yes, you could argue otherwise, and you want to be docha that argument. Gesundheit, you want to be machmir, fine. But I'm trying to defend my people and explain why people are makel to listen to music. Okay, let's get now even more recent from the great Gaon, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who was such a Gaon, such a loss to Klal Yisrael when he left this world. And there's a likud of his Piskei Halacha called Halicho Shlomo. I had the zechus to actually see Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach a few times, and when you just saw his smile, you saw that you were dealing with a holy man. Yesh lihimana b'yomim eila mikol shira ha'me'oreret l'rikudu machol. He says in halachos of avelus during Sefirah, he says you should refrain during these days from listening to any music that will arouse a person to dancing. Aval shira ha'meromemet et ha'adam ach eina mevi'ato l'rikudu machol muteret. So Rav Shlomo Zalman was makel. He said, if the music lifts your spirits, but it's not it's not with a rhythm, okay, which I don't have, but if it's not going to come to make you dance, so then it's okay. And it's okay. Slow music that's not going to arouse you to want to dance, but just is there to calm you and to elevate your mood, that is okay.
You're making a distinction between Jewish and non-Jewish?
No distinction made here. He may talk about that elsewhere. I'm just quoting you what he says as far as Avelos of Yemei Sefirah. It could be Taka holds that listening to Goyish lyrics and Goyish music may be also for other reasons. But specifically as it pertains to Sefirah, he says there's no Isser listening to music as long as it doesn't inspire you to want to dance. Because, in other words, it shouldn't be lively, allegro music. Okay?
Instrumental or vocal? It doesn't
Makes
matter.
no distinction between instrumental or vocal.
So
And
the assumption here is that he doesn't, during the year, there's obviously no Isser.
correct. Right. Shlomo Zalman is Mekel during the entire year.
Do we know why or how?
Probably because it's recorded music, just like we saw from Rav Breish. It's not part of the recorded music, and radio music is not part of the Gzeira. And we're making that, we're building on the previous Hetera. In footnote 53, he writes, Ben Pesach l'Shvuos, right? V'chein haya moret tamid l'sho'alim. Da'af al pi she'ein mevu'ar hadavar beposkim kvar no'agu lihimana gam mishira ve'ein lazuz min haminhag. So in other words, even though it's not brought down in Shulchan Aruch and Poskim that music is aser, we had to wait until the Aruch HaShulchan in the late 19th century told us that music is aser during Sefirah. He says, but nevertheless, if that's the minhag hamakom, if that's the minhag ha'olam, you should respect it. The geder hadvarim hu kibifnim. And so in other words, it's like, I think what he means to say kibifnim, in other words, it's already embedded within Klal Yisrael, and therefore you don't have a right to try and dislodge a minhag that is already well ensconced within Klal Yisrael. I'm not sure if that's what he means, but he says you should keep the minhag. And then look at what he says in the parentheses. Umikol makom hitonein pam al ribuy hashoylim b'chagonda ba'od b'halachot chamurot shehamichshol matzui b'hem rachmano litzlan. He says he complained to his talmidim. He says, I get this shaila so many times over the course of Sefirah, and I can relate to this as a community rabbi. I get so many shailas about listening to music, going to movies during Sefirah, and people don't ask me shailas, this is what Rav Shlomo Zalman says, about the real serious averas. He says, V'nokat az ledug mehilchos ribis ve'ilchos kibbut avvein, like the laws of not taking interest or paying interest to Jewish companies. That Agudas Yisrael just came out and says Quicken Loans is a majority Jewish-owned company, so there's a problem of ribis. We're not going to get into that now, but the point is that it's so prevalent and people just don't even think about it. And he says another example of Hilchas Kibbut Avayim. Those are really Doraisa issues, and people don't ask about that. He says the Ein Medakta Kin Lishol Kol Pratu Prat V'Ra Halicha Urei Halicha Shlomo Tefila Perek Dalid, right? Whatever. Okay, so that's just an aside. He says he lamented Reb Shlomo Zalman that people are so meticulous about whether or not to listen to music during Sefirah, but they're not meticulous about the really important issues that are brought actually verbatim in the poskim in black and white. Music is something that we infer, right? That's what people are so medactic. You listen to music. Are you from enough if you listen to music? If you listen to a cappella, you don't listen to a cappella, right? It's like, it's like the shidduch resume, right? So, what is the question you ask the boy or the girl? Do you listen to a cappella music during Sefirah? That'll determine how much Yirah Shamayim you have. I mean, isn't it ridiculous? Isn't it silly? I mean, you see this, right? You see this, right? But umikol makom kalatot sipurim liyeladim af im mushulavim bahem ma'at shirim en chashash b'shmiyato kitvei hatalmidim. He says what the Talmidim recorded from him also is that they noted that he had no problem if, let's say, there's incidental music, let's say on a children's recording, where a story, a children's story, and there's incidental music playing in the background. He says that's for sure not a problem, because that's, even if it's lively music, it's for sure okay. Now, Rav Belsky Zichrono Livracha, in Sefer Shulchan Halevi, he says even further. We're going to read two little shtikalach. One is from chapter 16 and one is from chapter 13. Let's go through this quickly. Im yesh v'ha'adam nitzrach k'tzat lemuzika kedei lesameach et atzmo. Sometimes people need music to give themselves a lift. Ki ha'olam malei machovim. Because the world is filled with pain. Yesh harbei tzarot bichlal Yisrael. People have troubles. People have pain. V'lifamim nitzrach la'adam k'tzat idud. And sometimes people need a little pick-me-up, some support. Kemo she'elisha kishene'evad lo kocho lihitnabei amar ve'ata kechuli menagain. We see in Elisha, Sefer Malachim, when he lost the spirit of prophecy, he says, bring me a minstrel, play some music for me to lift my spirits so that I can experience God again. Lifting of the spirits is not something that's wrong, just the opposite. If a person feels down, he's more distant from Hashem. So he says, Al ken yesh lahatir zot bizihirut uvihit apkut. He says, therefore we can permit a person to, he's not talking dafka about Sefirah, he's talking about in general. Okay? Avalim hu ragil bekach, azeh bichlal al tismach yisol gil ka'amim, v'chasher muzika menagenet lo hefseik. He says, but if you have incessant music playing the whole day, that's when there's a problem. ובחלק גדול של היום הוא עסוק רק בשמיעת מוזיקה, או מי שקם בבוקר והולך לישון עם מוזיקה, הרי הוא עובר על תשמח ישראל על גיל כעמים. והרי זה אסור. ולמעשה אין לשמוע יותר מהנצרך אם זה באמת כוונתו. He says, listen to what you need to listen and then turn it off. That shouldn't be constantly playing throughout the day. That's where there's a problem as far as Zecher L'Churban. Yeah? Let's go look at what he says in chapter 13, specifically regarding Sefirat HaOmer. She'ela la'achrona yatsu kalatot shnishmin bahen shira below livuy klei shir. He says, recently there's this phenomenon of a cappella music, right? And they do this to allow people to listen to music during Sefirah. We saw who said that it's okay? Anyone remember who said that it's okay, a cappella? Rav Ovadia said that it's okay. Rav Ovadia paskin that it's okay. האם מותר להאזין לקלטות אלו בימי ספירה, ואם יש הבדל בין שירים שמחים ורועשים לשירים שקטים ולא רועשים. And furthermore, is number one, a cappella music okay? And number two, is there a difference in halacha between slow music and fast music? Music that is, like we saw from Rav Breish, that is slow and soulful music versus music that has a beat and a rhythm that's going to inspire you to dance. So he writes, "Mi'ikar adin ein lishmoa muzika b'meshech kol yemot hashana mishum zecher lechurban." So he says, going back to what I said, in the other chapter, you should not listen to music the entire year because of a remembrance of the churban. And even though during the rest of the year, like Rav Breish had written, people are mekel, but avol bimei avelus k'Sefirat HaOmer u'vishloshes hashavuos machmirim bazeh ki ikar adin. But people are machmir during the 3 weeks and during Sefirah. Ein lishma muzika b'mei Sefirah beinim hi katzavit o itit. Do not listen to any music during Sefirah, whether it's fast tempo or slow tempo. Aval im ha'azana lemuzika hashkata ve'ha'itit, or lemuzika hashketa ve'ha'itit hi kedei lahargia tamazin kasher b'matzav ruach ra'al chedoimeh. Nira shemutar lahazin la almanashi lo yishuv hadas, aval rak b'midah hanitzrachet v'lo yoter. But if listening to music is to remove your sadness, is to give you a lift because you feel like depressed or you're down, you don't have to be clinically depressed. You just feel, I just need something to pick me up. I'm just, we all feel that way once in a while. Then, as long as it's slow music and it's not going to arouse you to dance, he says that's okay. Ein lahatir shmiat muzika lelo kelim rak b'shira hanishma'at kinegina. He said we should not be matir, listening to music without instruments. Rak b'shira hanishma'at kinegina. He says unless it literally sounds like singing. But if it's singing that is imitative of musical instruments, Rav Belsky says there's no difference. He says because kol hamatara shel hahimnaut mishmiat muzika b'Sefirat HaOmer hu limno min adam lachush et hargasha shel muzika. Umuzika zu tachlita latet l'shomei hargasha shel muzika b'li muzika. He says the a cappella music that they make, especially with synthesizers and things like that, that can modulate the voice and make it sound like a musical instrument. if you've seen some of these YouTube videos, he says it's defeating the whole purpose. In other words, Zil Basar time is essentially what Rav Belsky is saying. So if the a cappella music sounds exactly like, like the Maccabees, it sounds exactly like musical instruments, he says, what's the point? We all, it's accomplishing the same thing. Okay? Now, if you were to say to me, guy comes to me and says, I got to listen to music during Sefirah, I would tell him, better listen to the Maccabees than listen to musical instruments. But Rav Belsky's svara is still a good svara. First you ask him, so why do you need music? Why is music so important? Because I go nuts if I don't have a little bit of music during my day. Okay, so that we can even be matir with musical instrumentation, right? So again, everything is very, very subtle. The last thing I want to see with you tonight, and this is very important, and then we're going to finish. Zalman Nechemia Goldberg Shlita talks about listening to music during all different times of the year. And this is a very important issue where he says, as far as, first of all, let's talk about the 3 weeks. He says, he quotes the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Tavkuf Nun Aleph, where it says, Ein kol remez le'esor shmiat muzika b'chlei zemer o b'peh merosh chodesh aratainis mematin b'masa uvematan. He says, there is no mention at all of listening to music. He says, whether it's with instruments or with or vocal. It just says from Rosh Chodesh until the fast, you minimize your business and construction of simcha. Kagon beis achasnus livno binyan shel tzir v'kiyur v'nitiyah shel simcha. Ve'inosim nashim ve'inosim sudas erisin avolei aris below suda mutar v'afilu b'tisha b'av atzma or Raisham ikadmenu acher. He just quotes the Shulchan Aruch. There's no mention of music, but the Mishnah Berurah says erisin below suda leka simcha kol kach. The kol shekain demutar litkasher b'chtivat tanaim umikol makom suda asur lasos af ba'ofen zev afilu below rikudim mecholot asur lasur rikudim mecholot b'yunzav b'tamas be'elach afilu below erisin. So first of all, Rav Zalman Nechemia says there's no mention at all of an isser of music bichlal during the 3 weeks until Rosh Chodesh. But then he writes that as far as when it comes to the 9 days, he quotes the Kitzer that says that Yisrael sheparnasa shelo bichlei zemer. Right, Ron, you had asked this question about a Jewish musician. So there's a halacha brought down in the Kitzer that if a Jew is a professional musician, mutar lizamer bevayit eno Yehudi bichlei parnasato ad rosh chodesh. He says a professional musician can play music professionally until Rosh Chodesh Av. Avol me Rosh Chodesh ad achar hatainis aser. V'yom shiva asar b'tamas atzmo gam kein aser. So he's quoting the Kitzer that during the 9 days, even playing professionally is aser. Okay. Then he brings from the Minchas Yitzchak from Rav Weiss. The inyan u'mashaveha isor berikudim u'mecholot shehurchav gam l'klei zemer. V'lachein matir shira b'peh b'mei bein ha'mitzrim shemuzika kazeh eina shel rikudim u'mecholot v'domeh leminagen b'shvil parnasa. Ach b'tishat hayamim asur afilu b'peh sheyesh din l'ma'it b'simcha b'chlal al pi ha'klal mishenichnasav v'matin b'simcha domeh la'avel shasur b'chol milei d'simcha. So what Rav Zalman Nechemia says is that even though Rav Weiss is machmir during the entire 3 weeks, he's more machmir during the 9 days. So Rav Goldberg himself is makel during the 3 weeks before Rosh Chodesh Av, and he says, but during the 9 days from Rosh Chodesh until Tisha B'Av, even I am machmir, because you have to be memait b'simcha just like in Avel. And then he writes, this is the most important paragraph, Bimei HaSefirah. Yesh hanohagim la'aroch hakbala bein yemei bein hamitzarim lebein yemei HaSefirah. There are some people who say that the laws of Sefirah and the laws of the 3 weeks are the same. Ulam yemei bein hamitzarim chamurim yoter. But there's no question that's a mistake, because the period of the 3 weeks is more chamur. Bimei HaSefirah ein isur liknot devarim chadashim. There's no isser of buying new clothes, new items during Sefirah. Kimochein b'mei Sefirah posek HaMishnah Berurah im nizdamelo eze inyan shetzarich levarach alav shechiyanu yivarich. If you have something new that you need to make a shechiyanu for, no problem. You make a shechiyanu during Sefirah. V'chein nira be'isser shmiyas hamuzika yesh lahavchin ben shtei tekufot shana elu. And therefore, you should make the same distinction. Those who are machmir during the 3 weeks don't necessarily have to be as machmir during Sefirah. He's not magdir it completely, but he does say that there's a difference between the two. Omnam isur rikudim u'mechalot kamur le'el gam b'mei bein ha'mitzrim v'gam b'mei Sefirat HaOmer. But dancing is usher both times. Ki b'mei ha'Sefirah lo nikvu ka'avelut al ha'churban ve'ein lahashvot et isur klei hazemer b'yomim elu l'gzera klalit shel kol yemot ha'shana sheba'a machmat ha'churban. Is because the thing you have to understand, says Rav Goldberg, is like this. The reason why we amplify our mourning during the 3 weeks is because this is the period of the Churban. So whatever we mourn over during the entire year, Zecher l'Churban, we amplify during the 3 weeks when it's the season of Churban. But Sefirah has nothing to do with Churban. Sefirat HaOmer has nothing to do with the Churban. Sefirat HaOmer has to do with personal tragedies that occurred in historical periods outside of the Churban. And therefore, those takanas that Chazal made of Zecher l'Churban, and to remember the Churban, and to commemorate the Churban, have nothing to do with Sefirat HaOmer. And therefore, he paskins that there's much more room to be makel. The only thing that you cannot do during Sefirah is to create simcha. You're not supposed to create simcha. But to alleviate mourning is not a problem during Sefirah. And that's an important distinction. And then he goes into another distinction, which is also quite important. He says, "Achein nira shemuzika klasit lemashal she'einana muzika mevia lerikudim u'mechalot ve'eina menugenet beveit hamishteh eina bichlal ha'isur." He says, classical music that is not meant for dancing to was never even part of the gzeira in the first place, says Rav Goldberg.
Which Sefirah or
There is no gzeira on Sefirah. That's what we've just been saying the whole shiur. There's no gzeira on Sefirah bichlal. It's only for Zecher l'Churban. Zecher l'Churban was not to listen to music. Classical music was never included in that gzeira, right? So he says, "Va'achein hitiru rabbanim shmiat muzikat kazot afilu bimei bein hamitzarim." And therefore, there are poskim who permit you to listen to classical music even during the 3 weeks when we amplify our Churban commemoration. Hainu muzika sheshomea adam toch shehu osek b'malachto lomeid o nahag levad ba'oto shelo yeradem. He says, let me give you some examples. When you're at work, or you're studying, or you're driving and you don't want to fall asleep, okay? Heyot ve'adam tarud bi'inyanav, because it's not like l'shem listening to music. It's, I need some accompaniment to keep me going. Yesh anashim sheshmiat muzika avoram hu davar chiyuni l'tzorach menuchat hanefesh, like Rav Belsky writes. There are some people who need it's their sustenance. They are artistic, they're sensitive people, and they need music in their life. Right? He says it's like their nutrition. Kidivrei harambam b'shmona prakim mishi yitower alav marashchayra yasira b'shmiat hanigunim u'v'minei zemer. And the Rambam writes in Shmona Prakim, in his introduction to Pirkei Avos, if a person is filled with depression, he should listen to music. Ki hanefesh tela'a v'ta'achor ha'machshava b'atmadat iyun advarim ha'ku'urim ken tzricha nefesh gam ken litasek b'menuchot ha'chushim b'iyun lefituchim l'inyanim ha'na'im ad sheyasur mimena hali'ut. Muzika zu shehi chiyunit l'nefesh ein la kol kesher l'rikudim v'limcholot shnasu b'mei ben ha'metzarim Lefi Magen Avram v'hi'ena asura b'yamim elu. And there,
classical?
he writes, what?
That only refers to classical.
He's right. He's talking about music in general that is not going to arouse dancing. And then finally he says, muzika atsuva. What about sad music? What about Barber's Adagio? If you ever listened to that, that is the most saddening music you'll ever hear in your life. Look it up. You can look up Samuel Barber, the Adagio. Many times it was used as the official movement for 9/11. When the first music, the first symphony that the New York Philharmonic played after 9/11 was Barber's Adagio. It was not a dry eye in the house. So what about music that actually, not only does it not impel you to dance, but it actually makes you sad? What about that? So Zakt Rav Goldberg, he says, "Ayin b'mishta b'ksuvas she'afilu ani b'yisrael lo yivchos mishnei chalilu mekonenos Muzika kazot mivi'a le'adam rigashot atzuvim v'nogim v'haita nohuga be'et halavayat hamet. Times of the Mishnah, they were playing music at a levaya. Why? Because there's a recognition that just as much as music can make you happy, music can also make you sad. And therefore, v'kach nifsak b'Rambam v'Shulchan Aruch shebizmanam hutal hadavar kechov afal ba'al oni be'es levayas ishto v'im b'shal leviyah chiyavu negina zu b'vadai she'i muteret afilu b'mei bein hamitzarim. And if the rabbis obligate us to do it at a levaya, then surely it is permitted even during the bein hamitzarim, mistama, even during the 9 days. If it's like, listening to the theme from Schindler's List, right? Or listening to other kinds of music that are going to make you get into the spirit of the sadness of the day. Bottom line is, Zil Basar Taima, use Seichel. There are poskim who say across the board that music is asr. But you see that many contemporary poskim, especially when it comes to Sefirat HaOmer, draw that distinction and therefore are not machmir.